and welcome to JJM Leadership Conversation. My name is Joe, your host for today's talk. JJM Leadership Conversation aims at empowering you with a message of hope and also changing the leadership narrative. We believe that all of us are leaders. You don't have to be occupying a particular position to be a leader. Leadership is influence. Due to the demand of our message of hope, we're going to be bringing you different people from all walks of life, from business, politics, and also just ordinary people that are making a difference where they are. So coming up today, I've got my guest, who is the CGSO CEO, which is the Consumer Goods and Services Ombudsman. She brings a lot of experience in the financial sector, including private and public industries. She holds various qualifications from the University of Pretoria, UNISA, and other universities in the country. She belongs to various bodies as well, which controls or governs her auditing background. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, we also need to understand that this is the month of August, the Women's Month, and we are celebrating women that are also making the most in their careers and also in their communities. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to help me welcome Queen Munyai in your space, in those social media platforms, in your television. So let's welcome Queen Munyai on our show today. Queen, you're welcome.
Thank you, Joe, for having me. It's my pleasure to be here, and good day to all the viewers.
Queen, I want you to indulge our viewers today by introducing yourself, in particular, the organization that you work for, and I think we will take it from there. Just give us, I think, a bit of introduction about yourself and the organization that you represent.
Thank you very much. I'd love to do that. Let me start by giving a bit of background about myself. I was born in Soweto, Chiawero in particular, where I started my schooling. But around the 1976 uprising, there was disruptions with schooling and I couldn't continue. So me and my siblings were taken to Venda to continue with our studies.
While you're still on that, it's a very interesting one because it seems as if almost every parent who had kids in Gauteng, they had to ship their kids back to Venda. So I think I've got an experience with that as well.
Which was very interesting because for some of us, we would know that our parents originate from Venda, but we never really had a chance to go there.
Correct.
So now we are faced with a situation where we must go down there and stay there, which was...
And at that time, you're staying there, no parents. Your parents
Absolutely.
are still in
They leave
Soweto.
you there with a relative to look after you.
Correct, yeah.
But anyway, that happened. We managed to finish, and then I started my junior degree at the University of Venda, which later I got a job where I started working on a part-time basis. So I'm working, and in the evening I have to go to school for studies, which I continued. But later I had to move to Joburg. So in my introduction, I didn't mention to you that I'm blessed to be a mother and a wife, and I have 4 children.
Wow.
So due to marriage, I had to move now to the Gauteng. Yes.
All right.
At the time, I'm still working at Standard Bank. That was my first job, which for me, I need to mention.
Maybe I want maybe let me just go ahead of you there. Also mention that your first job was, you were a teller, right?
Yes. In fact, no, telling, that is an advanced one.
Oh, it was an advanced one? Oh.
Yes. I started working as a, we used to call it waste clerk at the time, but it is what you would call today.
Waste clerk, counting the fading money or something like that.
No, I think that was the term that was used. You know, banking as a way of using certain terms for other things. So they used to call us waste clerk, but in particular it was a data capturer. You remember in the olden days, the banking was manual, so a customer will walk into the bank and make a deposit, so a teller will manually write a slip.
Correct.
So that needed to be updated on the computer so that the amount which was deposited or withdrawn then is reflecting on the account. So I was that girl that goes and pick up those papers and capture.
Okay.
So for me, Standard Bank, I think it was my training ground.
Okay.
I walked away with a lot of lessons, which I think utilize in my space. Where
I really want to stop you there a little bit and just try to talk to our viewers here. And remember, my introduction here, I mentioned that Queen, she is a CEO of an organization. And so I want us to really capture here, Queen, in terms of your experience. Today you are a CEO, but you're showing us that you started from a humble beginning of being a clerk.
Absolutely.
So can you just tell us maybe some of the skills that you've learned along the way, maybe that you are also using today, in your career?
One that comes to mind is the fact that we all know banking environment is a very strict environment where you operate by rules and all that. So that for me was a training ground because I was entrusted. I had to start from the beginning, but very quickly I moved up into higher positions. I became a teller, and then I became an auto bank custodian, and then I was entrusted with a lot of accountability because then I was entrusted. When you are a teller, you are given an amount of money, you are given an opportunity to handle people's money. So that talks to your integrity. So at that point, I think that ground, why I say it prepared me for the role that I'm busy doing today is the fact that my integrity was tested there. Wow. Because I never found myself helping myself to the cash, which was in the till or whatever.
I'm not even thinking that now you're thinking that at home there's no food, you've got bills to pay, but you have now to take care of somebody's money. So for me, I think one of the leadership aspect that also come through very powerfully as well for me is the aspect of integrity. So all our viewers at home, I think this is one of the value that we can also build for ourselves, the aspect of integrity. You want to grow in life, make sure that you've got integrity. What you say must also be followed by your actions. You can continue, Queen.
And also, not only integrity. Okay, on the integrity part, I will touch briefly on the fact that you are entrusted with you see yourself loading money. You know, most of us are used to going to the ATM and withdrawing money, but you don't know how the money came in there. I was that girl that now loads the money in the machine. So you can imagine what kind of responsibility that is, because you have the opportunity to pick up, especially in that time when things were very tough, even in the background that we're coming from. So it was very important for you to prove yourself that you are faithful and you can be entrusted with that kind of responsibility. Also, what I picked up was the fact that I was taken from one level to another for training. As I said, that I moved very quickly through different positions. I remember I actually worked with the late Pastor Irene, if you remember. She's the one that taught me ATM custodian and treasury custodian. So
many of us, we started, knowing Pastor Irene when she was already on television. So we never knew that Pastor Irene was also in the banking system.
Wow, she was at that time, and she's one of the people that really groomed me in that banking space. Wow. So there I allowed myself to go through the training process and learn from those that I've done it before. A lot of us today, I see that we are lacking in the society, that we find ourselves with people that want to go through microwave prosperity. They don't want to learn any skills. They don't want to be taught. They know everything. So for me, I think allowing yourself to start from the beginning was key for me, and I grew throughout the process. And that has now, fast forward today, I'm sitting here, I'm the CEO of the Consumer Goods and Services Ombud in South Africa.
What is that? What is CGSO? What is that?
Okay, Joe likes to call it CGSO,
Okay.
but I'll elaborate for the benefit of the viewers so that they understand, because acronyms sometimes they can just confuse you. It's the Consumer Goods and Services Ombudsman in South Africa. It's the Alternative Dispute Resolution Body, which is an alternative to the National Consumer Commission.
Okay.
We are also an alternative to the courts. If a consumer buys goods or services in South Africa, those goods and services which are governed by the Consumer Protection Act, if anything goes wrong, you have the opportunity to raise your complaint with the supplier.
Okay.
So if you are not happy about how your complaint was handled, then there is a body which you can escalate your complaint to, and that is the Consumer Goods and Services Ombud. That's what we do.
I want to bring a point home here, Queen, and I think as well for the sake of our viewers. You know, when we talk about consumers, who are you talking about? Can you try to make it so practical? And I think from my side, because of the privilege that I have, it's the I've seen, I think there is a program that you contribute content, which is what? Speak Out?
Yes.
Yeah, so just give us maybe in a more practical sense of who the consumer is or the product that I can buy. And I mean, I remember even in the past week, there was a very interesting dispute around land. Imagine you buying land from someone else, and sooner or later you are told that that person was not the rightful person that should have sold you that particular land. Can I take that as a consumer? Can I take that to you, or you have got you know, some demarcation of the areas where you assist?
That's a good question, because a lot of people, I've seen it a lot when we are on TV. You mentioned TV earlier, or any of our staff members can go to any kind of media. We get an influx of calls which talks to everything, talking to cars, talking to banking. So in the industry,
I've sold my cow. I've never
absolutely,
received,
funeral services. So they said they will come and erect a tombstone, and now they are not coming through. So I mentioned earlier that the goods and services that are covered by the Consumer Protection Act, under the Department of Trade and Industry and Competition, there are two codes.
Okay.
The codes of conducts that are promulgated, or they are accredited.
Okay.
To be simple, yeah. So first is the Motor Industry Ombud.
Okay.
And then there's a Goods and Services Ombud.
Okay.
Those are the two codes currently that are accredited in South Africa. So for any complaints that has to do with motor vehicles, then you go to the Motor Ombud,
okay,
which is MIOSA in short.
Okay.
For any goods, be it services, you can think, we've talked about funeral services, you've talked about land, you've talked, so there are other industries within the area that I think it's one of the widest ombuds. We've got other ombudsmen with jurisdiction, which are not necessarily accredited ombuds.
Okay.
Like, for instance, I'll give an example. If you have a complaint that have to do with banking, then there's a banking ombud.
Okay.
If your complaint has to do with credit-related matters, maybe you are listed at credit bureau unlawfully, then there's a credit ombud.
Okay.
However, if you are complaining, for instance, maybe you buy clothing on credit, or you buy a TV or an appliance on credit. If there's a problem with the contract or the credit side of things, then you go to the credit ombud. However, if the complaint is with the TV or the goods that you have purchased, then you come to the Consumer Goods and Services Ombud, because we deal with the goods or services. And services that we cover include services like I'm your consumer today, seated here.
All right. Wow.
or services of the camera, or maybe you can say you deploy somebody to come and take pictures at your wedding. Okay. And then they don't deliver the pictures. Then those complaints will come to us. Or maybe you go and purchase a tombstone. I gave an example with a tombstone, or you bought a kettle, or you bought those kind of services. And there's a wide range of them. and that is, I will not go into the full detail. But those are the type of goods and services. Or somebody was appointed to come and erect a gate or build a wall, those kind of services. Then we cover that.
All right.
I hope I'm clear enough.
I think it's very, very clear. And if we indulge on that, we may not have, I think, enough time to also understand the person that we have here today. I want us to go to the next question, Queen, where we're looking at what are your daily challenges at your work? If you wake up in the morning and you're saying, I'm CEO and I'm going to my office, what are the first challenges that you deal with on a daily basis?
Yeah, that's a big one. Because, okay, maybe let me highlight this. The fact that my day, it's hardly predictable. Sometimes you wake up and prepare yourself for one, and you get to the office, maybe you face the next
a different challenge.
Absolutely. So the kind of challenges that I face on a daily basis are the fact, the biggest one is the issue of doing more with less, resources. I've mentioned earlier that we are an accredited Ombud. And the funny part is the fact that we are not funded by government. And a lot of people think that we are a government institution.
Entity,
However, we are an industry Ombud. Therefore, we are funded by industry. So that becomes the biggest challenge for me to raise enough revenue from industry to service the same industry, which is quite a challenge there. So you have to find a way of balancing. You want to serve the entire community of South Africa. And the challenge is that with the code which is accredited, you cannot only serve the consumers that are complaining against suppliers who have registered with our office.
Because I wanted to come there to say, the minute you are saying your institution is funded by industry, does it mean that you only serve those that are contributing, or you serve everyone, wonke, they come to you for the solutions?
Okay. In terms of the code that I've referred to earlier, it is now compulsory for any supplier in South Africa who are operating within the goods and services industry, those that are covered by the CPA, to register with our office. So first you register, and also there is a funding, a little contribution. It's very minimal. There's a little annual contribution that suppliers need to register and pay into our office. That's how we get our revenue from industry. However, the trick is that although there are limited number of businesses that have registered with our office, we are unlimited in terms of dealing with complaints. We have to deal with all the complaints that are brought to our attention, even against those suppliers that are not registered. So you will realize that the balance there is not there, because the influx of complaints, which are unlimited, limited resources. That is the biggest challenge that I face on a day-to-day basis. Over and above that, then we have a people factor. I'm leading people. You have leadership now that you can bring into this space. You are dealing with people from different backgrounds. You have to manage people. You also have to make sure that you develop that staff. So that is another responsibility that I'm faced with on a day-to-day basis.
Queen, I think you are bringing a lot of assistance to our viewers, and I'm hoping that they will be able to follow the work that you do. We will also share the link in which they should visit to get more information about CGSO. But I want us to move now, coming back to you, Queen, and try to look at the challenges that comes with the position of being a CEO. In South Africa, one of the interesting things, and it's or should I call it a curse? They call it a curse of being the first. I don't know if you've ever heard about that, Queen. The curse of being the first. The first black who did this, the first black who went to the sky and did, or went to the moon, and all that. So somehow it comes with its own challenges. I don't know about you. You being a CEO in your position, what are the challenges that you deal with in the industry? I'm not talking about in your company, but your peers. Do you have to deal with, the gender issues? Do you have to deal with you being maybe the only lady in the room? But what are the challenges that you are faced with in your position?
Yeah, thank you for that question, Joe. It's one of the, I think is top on my, some of the challenges that I deal with. Okay. Because when I started in this position of CEO, in the beginning, yes, it was a challenge because, as you said, being the first, there's a lot of expectation on you. And also you find that you are taking over. With me, I took over from a white male when I started this position, which on itself is a shift.
Now you have to go and knock to these suppliers
Absolutely.
who are comfortable with this white male, for example.
And not only the suppliers, but even the staff. You know how we are.
Yes, correct. Yeah.
The staff, you find that they are very comfortable to report to a white male. Correct. As opposed to a black female. Correct. So those are the challenges that we had to close that gap. But I think the introduction, when I started in this role, what helped me a lot, which I think was kind of a blessing in disguise for me, was the fact that when the former CEO, when I took over before my time, or when maybe I can refer to my predecessor, he used to be both the ombudsman and the CEO. Okay. So when he retired, he then made a recommendation that I be the one who is appointed to take over from you as part of his succession plan. Okay. Which for me, I think it was unusual, because you would think that maybe with the history that we come from, it was not expected. But there it happened. He recommended me to be the one, and I started acting. I acted in the position for about a year before I was finally appointed. But when in the period of acting, I think I found myself. You find yourself being the only female in the boardroom. Correct. Or you are negotiating and you are the one that needs to give a final decision. And sometimes you are talking, my voice is very low. You find people speaking over you. When you are talking, somebody interjects whatsoever. It's like, okay, and they learn later. Actually, the person that you are actually undermining is the one that must finally take a decision. Correct. So you obviously, there is that inherent challenge that you come with as a black South African, that you actually have to work. You have to work
two times to prove yourself.
To be able to be taken seriously. Correct. Which was a challenge. But I think my work spoke for itself, because I was able to deliver, and which I think that even the board, when they finally appointed me, it was something that was not really a no-brainer for them. They had to, they found me to be the suitable person to step into that position, which I think helped a lot. Because currently when you look at my organization, I think 80% of my staff is women. So even in our board, I think our industry is way ahead of most of the industries out there.
Sort of a transformed
Absolutely. Because I know that it's not like that for other people outside. Okay. Because some people, they're still struggling with a lot of things. For us, I think we are already one step ahead. Okay. Because even in the board, there's that balance. We get women, we get male individuals in that space, where it helps a lot to balance.
Maybe let me try to come in here. And I want to just look at this important question for me as we almost wrapping our conversation. I want you to talk to me about your leadership philosophy. What helps you? What is your leadership philosophy?
Okay, thank you, Joe. You know what? You'll be surprised to. Maybe you will not be surprised. I have a background of being a believer. Okay. I'm a Christian myself, so I've learned a principle from my reading from a certain Dr. John Maxwell. Okay. There's a principle which I learned very early and started to practice it myself, which helps me on my day-to-day life or my leadership journey. He talks about the 70-25-5 principle, where he says that a good leader does not need to be a jack of all trades.
Correct.
So you spend 70% of your time focusing on your strengths, 25% on your development areas, on the areas where you want to develop yourself, and 5% on your weak points. So I apply the very same principle in the fact that I don't believe that I know it all. I have a team which is very strong, and I make sure that I put people where they can deliver the most. And I don't take over. When I've put you in a position, I want you to deliver. I don't want, I will give a leadership guidance. Obviously, as a leader, you need to give. Because of the, I think I was blessed to have that opportunity to work in different industries before I came into this role. So I picked up a lot of skills along the way, which helps me to guide throughout the organization. So I allow them to take their space, but also I give my staff a chance to speak. Their voice is heard. When I ask them to submit a report, it's not only to tick a box. I actually listen to what they're saying and implement, because I believe that when you are part of the decision, you can easily own it. And I also have an open door policy.
I hope it's a real one. It's not that one where a person says, I've got an open door policy, but when you enter into the office, you find that there is a lion behind the door.
Not at all. Not at all. I'm sure that perhaps some of my staff will be able to dial in or send you messages.
Guys, please make sure that you write to us and give us a feedback.
Yeah, both literally and also as a principle that I operate, is that whenever, because you're dealing with people, you have to have that human part. The human nature comes in. And I think I also come through as a motherly figure when I'm there, because in my real life, I'm a mother, so I'm also able to understand and also be empathetic in other areas when I deal with the people. So I allow them to come in whenever they have anything to say or anything to add.
Ladies and gentlemen, I hope that there is something that you have picked up for yourself in this conversation. And one thing that comes very strong for me, number one, is the issue of integrity, the issue of being trustworthy in your work environment. The other thing that is also very important for us, especially in the Women's Month, it's also to make sure that we recognize that our women as well, they've got capabilities to influence our generation. And that is why there is a saying that if you empower a woman, you are also empowering a nation. On that note, I want Queen to give us a message, the Women's Day message to the women that are out there. What can you say to them, Queen, as we conclude and wrap up our conversation?
Thank you very much. I think to tie in with what I've already said before, as part of my principles, I apply that thing which is called rising, lifting as you rise. As I am moving forward, I make sure that I identify a few women or few people that I can help to develop so that I can rise with. So it's through a mentorship. However, a message that I want to give to women is the fact that, yes, a lot is said about mentorship, but I think we need to move on to now advocating for other women. For those that have made it and be able to get opportunities, I would advise that let's try and identify others that we can move with. And those that are still aspiring, I encourage that allow the process of growth to play its part. Start from the beginning. Allow yourself to start from scratch so that you can grow. And even if perhaps you feel like you are losing heart, it's taking forever, I'm not getting there, maybe I've wasted time, maybe I've made mistake, it's never too late to turn your life around. Continue to trust in yourself, continue to look forward. And I think that in South Africa, the table is set. I would like to invite women to sit at the table.
Wow. Thank you so very much, ladies and gentlemen, for watching our broadcast today on the Women's Day. And we are hoping that there are lessons that you have picked up for yourself If you want to follow the work that we do, please make sure that you visit our website, which is jjmfoundations.org, or you follow us on all the social media platforms under JJM Foundation. And thank you for watching. God bless, and meet you at the top where you belong.